So in your clay pot kit, you should have gotten a cardboard pot, some sort of a sculpting tool, and a big ball of clay. Now each kit has a different tool in it. Some of them may have 2 tools in them, but you should have at least one sculpting tool, and you can use that for various things. And the first thing you're going to do is you're going to take some of your clay that you received, and you're going to cover your cardboard pot. So the coverage does not have to be too thick, but you want it to be the same thickness all the way around. Otherwise your pot gets lopsided and kind of heavier on one side than on the other, and it won't stand up appropriately. And so if you want to use it for anything really, you're going to want it to stand up. So I find that putting my hand in the pot and smoothing the clay with my thumb works best. If you have a different technique that works for you, great. This is what works for me. And by having my hand in the pot, it's allowing it to not be smushed quite so much. And it's kind of a thinner cardboard, so it may, lose its shape, and that's not too big of a deal, I don't think. And I found that having a thicker layer of clay is better than a thinner layer, because the cardboard pot might lose its shape, and when it does, it will crack the clay that is on the pot, and that doesn't look great, and it's not really good, because if you're wanting to use the pot for anything, then the clay will just kind of flake off, and that's kind of obnoxious. So just keep adding clay until it's totally covered, which we're about there. And I probably could have made this a little bit thicker even, but I'm just motoring along. And the nice thing about this clay is it really does stay pretty pliable for quite a while. I mean, once you put it on, once you open it, you really should start, using it, but you're able to go back and smooth things out for quite a while. So, Alright, and if there's one side that you think looks better than the other, that can be your front. If there's one side that you think just looks terrible, hey, guess what? Every pot needs a back, so that can be the back of your pot. There we have it. It's a pretty even layer because it's standing up nicely. And we could be a real stickler and we could go through and we could smooth this out so it's all, really smooth, but I don't think it really matters that much. Especially if you're making a monster. Your monster can be wrinkly and uneven. All right, so let's see, let's call that the front. And from here, you really can just use your imagination and do what you want to do. So I think we'll start with a nose. And I'm going to just take a little bit of clay, roll it into a ball, sort of elongate it so it's more cylindrical than it is a ball. And that's going to be part of my nose. So we'll just flatten it down a little bit. And we'll give it some nostrils so our monster can breathe. Then I'm going to take that top part and I'm going to just kind of elongate it with my fingers. And that's going to be the bridge of my nose. You can totally do this however you want to do it. It is your monster creation. So there we have a bit of a nose. Let's give it a mouth too. Let's see. This is going to be our top lip. So we're just going to kind of roll a snake and cut it in half. This will be our top and our bottom lip. Think about what a mouth looks like. You've got kind of a curve for the top lip, and the top lip is usually a little bit fuller. And then you want a curve for the bottom lip as well. And it's a little bit too long, so we'll take a little bit off. We're just going to meet them at the edge of the mouth. And let's see, so our mouth is open, so let's give it kind of a wonky tooth. And I'm just using my tool to kind of shape that ball. I mean, a ball first. Ball first. And then we're going to use this tool and just kind of shape it up so it's more square, more tooth-like. Just stick that right in between our lips. And again, because this clay is so pliable, I can just use my tool to push it around a little bit and put that right in there. And just shape it up inside the mouth as well. Put those lips back together. So now we've got one wonky tooth. And of course our monster's gonna need some eyes to see. So let's see what's gonna be a good eye shape. Do you want it to have just one eye? Maybe it's a cyclops. Maybe it just has one eye. So again, we'll just roll a little ball of clay. That might be a little bit too big actually. Let's go a little smaller. Roll a ball of clay. Flatten it out a little bit. Might be a little bit too small. No, that should be okay. Just gonna stick that right in the middle of its head. Here's our eye. Let's give it a tiny little pupil. Perfect. And we'll give it a couple of ears too. So everything that I'm doing, I'm kind of starting with a ball shape of clay and just going from there. So just push on that. And cut off a bit. Stick it along the side. same thing on this side. And so the nice thing about using the cardboard pot is it's not heavy. It's pretty small, so you can sort of put this wherever you want it to go. But it helps you get that shape without having to sort of freehand it. My ears might be a little bit low, but that's fine. Maybe they're not ears, maybe they're bolts. Maybe this is like Frankenstein. And he has bolts. They're also not the same size, but again, that's okay. I think that's probably pretty good for this guy. And so I'm just gonna let him sit and he'll dry, because this clay that I gave you is actually air dry clay. You don't have to bake it or anything. Just have to let it sit out and it'll dry on its own. So there's one that I made before, and like I said, make sure you kind of have a thicker layer of clay, because this one is a very thin layer of clay and you can see how it's breaking all over, which was a good trial run. Now I know, thicker layer. And I had an eye fall off. But again, it is what it is. But there's that one that I've done, that I did previously. And he looks pretty scary. But he's fully dry. He dried probably in 24 hours. He was completely dry. And maybe I'll just put him on my desk and put some pens or something in him. But there's that one that we did previously. Here's the one we just did. So I'll let this one sit and dry. All right. And then once he's dry, you can paint him if you want to, or you can, before you start to sculpt, you can add paint or food coloring into the clay itself and pre-color it. Or you can wait till after he's dry and you can paint him with acrylic paint or tempera paint. But you want to make sure that it's completely dry before you start painting it, unless you incorporate the paint into the wet clay. So at this point, I would not paint him because he's still wet. Once he dries, I could add paint to him. Or I could paint him and, you know, make an eyebrow or paint his lips red. All right, so there is your clay monster pot. See you next time.